Well, here we are. Michael Keaton's in Dumbo. Shia LaBeouf's movie makes $8.70 at the UK box office. And this is the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 15. What a day. On today's episode, we're talking about Joss Whedon currently in talks to direct DC's Batgirl. Also, Jumanji 2 is experiencing some major changes from the source material, The Mummy. Also, we're talking about the evolution and devolution of comedy today. So, sit back and relax because the Vince Salerno Podcast starts right now. Hello. Welcome to the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 15 on this Friday, April 7th, 2017. Those are that's my favorite number, 7. So April 7th, lucky 7. I'm your host, Vince Salerno, and we're going to have to start on a very sour and sad note. Literally minutes before I started recording this episode, I'd just been informed that famous comedian Don Rickles has passed away. He died of a kidney failure, and he was 90 years old. I'm assuming most of you younger audiences won't know who Don Rickles is, and it's quite a shame that you probably don't. He's Mr. Potato Head. He voiced Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, and the other Toy Story shorts. The first thought I had was, did he record stuff in time for Toy Story 4? Is he even going to be in Toy Story 4? I know that's probably not the first thing that should pop into my head, but being a big fan of Toy Story and being a big fan of Mr. Potato Head in that movie, that's how I identify with Don Rickles. That's the first thing that pops into my head when I think of Don Rickles, is Mr. Potato Head. But of course, he's a legendary comedian known for insulting people, especially Frank Sinatra, who kind of got a kick out of it. He would have Don Rickles come on his shows and crack a few jokes for letting him sing. Just a legendary comedian. The world is a lesser place without a guy like him, known as Mr. Warmth, what I'm reading right now. So I don't want to act like I'm an expert on Don Rickles. I'm not, but just from what I know about Don Rickles, he made me laugh. He made a lot of people laugh, and it's unfortunate that we're losing him. So let's just take a moment of silence for Don Rickles. Don Rickles, thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for giving me Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story. I look forward to seeing whatever works you have left. Rest in peace, Don Rickles. All right, well, it's kind of a very sour note to move on to, but we're going to try. So there's a couple of stories that came out that I wanted to cover, and I don't really have not a lot came out this week, so I'm going to cover some old stories that came out a week ago, and then some stories that came out this week. So here we go. Number 1, Joss Whedon is in talks to direct Batgirl. That alone should get you excited, considering everything that DC has been going through with their bad movies, Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. They need good directors, and it should be no debate. Joss Whedon is a fantastic director. He directed the Avengers Age of Ultron. Despite what you think about Age of Ultron, I thought it was a good movie. Not great, but good. That was standing. He's a phenomenal director. He jump-started the Avengers franchise. He basically, was a creative consultant on all the Phase 2 films. He excels at female characters like Buffy and Dollhouse, and he did a really good job with Black Widow. I mean, he's one of my favorite directors, and it's a shame that he doesn't do more. But just know that his next project is going to be another superhero film, that being in the DC cinematic universe, is pretty exciting, and I have no idea how he's going to take it. I know he has a tendency to do very dark but humorous things, or maybe he'll add a very humorous take on Batgirl, or maybe he'll take a more darker approach. I'm not sure, but Joss Whedon's, he's also writing and producing. So for me, being a big Joss Whedon fan, this is really exciting. I'm not a huge fan of the Batgirl character, just because she's not one that pops up on my radar that I'm like super excited about. But I don't hate the character. I think she's an awesome character. It's kind of cool that she's the daughter of the police commissioner. Then she has a secret that she's actually Batgirl, fighting alongside one of her father's most trusted friends. That's kind of an interesting dynamic there. But I mean, there's really nothing else to say. Joss Whedon's directing a DC movie, and like I said, DC has not been doing so well, so they need someone like Joss Whedon to really give them a good movie under their belt, and I have no doubt he's going to do that. I mean, they already got Patty Jenkins doing Wonder Woman, and as far as I can tell, Wonder Woman looks awesome. Not that I'm super excited about it, but it just looks really good. They got Matt Reeves directing Batman. They got Matthew Vaughn possibly directing Superman. As a big Superman fan, I'd love to see that happen. Please let it happen. And now you got Joss Whedon doing Batgirl. I think this is great, and it might get me a little more excited for that Gotham City Sirens. If you segue Batgirl into this and make her a good character, I might get behind a Gotham City Sirens, but still don't care about that movie. All right, number 2. WonderCon was last week, and we got some new details about the Jumanji sequel, which is now being called Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. First major change. First it's a sequel, just so people aren't confused. It is a sequel. It's not a reboot. The big major change. The big major change from the original is. Oh my gosh! Excuse me. We are focusing on these kids playing a video game, and not a board game. And what happens is these kids get transported into the game, and they play as these avatars, which are Dwayne Johnson, Karen Gillan, Jack Black, and Kevin Hart. Now, I'm not excited about this, and the reason why is because Jumanji is so classic. It's one of those classic 90s movies that you have to be really careful with how you do it. And I'm terrified. I mean, initially I was behind a Jumanji movie because I was like, okay, they could probably do the same thing, and they could connect it to the original Robin Williams film with Dwayne Johnson in the mix or whatever. But I just don't like, the idea of these kids being transported into these avatars. That just sounds really weird to me. Like some scrawny, nerdy kid is being transported into a buff dude, or I'm pretty sure one of the characters is a girl and she's being transported into like Jack Black. That just sounds really weird to me. I don't know. But also just the fact that they're changing the board game to a video game. I don't like that. Because at which point was Jumanji ever a video game? And I understand it's a modern era. You want to update it a little bit, but the MacGuffin of the Jumanji movie was that it was a board game. That's like the one thing you shouldn't change. Change everything else around it if you want, but don't change the fact that it's a board game that starts the whole thing, gets everything in motion. That just, to me, that's like making Star Wars without lightsabers, or making Star Wars without Jedi. You just can't do it. You just can't. Even Rogue One has a Sith. That's besides the point. But look, I'm still holding out judgment because I want to see a trailer, see what this is about. But even the title, like Welcome to the Jungle, it just sounds like they're taking this really like. It almost feels like it's one of those Journey to the Center of the Earth movies with Brendan Fraser, and then eventually Dwayne Johnson took over that franchise. Actually, now that I think about it, it looks like it's a sequel to that. And I don't want to see a movie like that. I want to see Jumanji 2, where we're set in the same world. But I don't know. I'm not liking the changes, and I'll hold out judgment until I see a trailer. But changes don't sound that good to me. Okay, number 3. Universal released a new trailer for The Mummy, the new Mummy franchise reboot starring Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe, Sophia Boutella. I think that's it. There's probably other people that I just can't remember that are. I'm pretty sure Jake Johnson's in that movie too. He's funny. I've been pretty supportive of this Universal Monsters franchise, and the main reason is because they've decided to make this cinematic universe with all these monsters. And That's actually a really cool idea. I think if anything, if any cinematic universes are going to start up, that's one I want to see. I want to see classic Mummy, classic Frankenstein, and Werewolf, and all these characters come together in a movie. I don't know if they're going to save the world or not, but just that dynamic sounds very interesting to me. So Russell Crowe's playing Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Sofia Boutella is playing the Mummy, and now there's rumors circulating. I guess this trailer that came out, it shows Tom Cruise's eyes or pupils splitting in two, much like Sofia Boutella's in the first trailer. They split in two. That gives me a headache every time I see that. But it's creepy, cool, but it's, oh my gosh, it just gives me a major headache when I see that. I don't know why, but the theory is that Tom Cruise could possibly actually be the Mummy, like he is the past lover of the Mummy, and he just had like a memory wipe and doesn't know who he is, or that's just the sign of him being controlled by her, or, and this is a theory I'm banking on, Tom Cruise is playing Van Helsing, and they're going to introduce Van Helsing, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and the Mummy all in this one movie, and I think that would be super dope. I'm sure they can make it work with it not being a big convoluted mess like Batman v Superman introducing too many characters in one movie, but I think that just sounds really cool to me. Like, because that's kind of what Van Helsing is. He's a monster hunter. He's this legendary, like, maybe he's a descendant of Van Helsing. He is destined to fight the Mummy and these other monsters, and then maybe eventually bring them all together to form this team to save the world. I'm not banking on that. I actually hope they don't do that. I'm sure they'll think of another dynamic to bring the monsters together with just, let's have them save the world or whatever. But I love the idea of him playing Van Helsing. I'm pretty sure he was up for playing Van Helsing a while ago. I think that's still in the cards, him being in a Van Helsing movie. I hope that is the plan and that I walk out of the theater for the Mummy and he is Van Helsing. That would be so great. But yeah, I mean, the trailer's nothing special. It's an action horror-y trailer. I mean, they're doing a great job at blending horror and action, which I thought was kind of going to be a hard sell, because I didn't want to see a all action Mummy film, because that's what the Brendan Fraser films are for. We're talking a lot about Brendan Fraser today, but they're doing a good job at blending both the horror and the action. So it gets me excited to see if this is actually going to be a scary but yet action-packed movie. So is it going to be the best film of the year? No, it's not. But it looks like it could be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to the reboot of The Mummy. Okay, number 4. More bad news. Looks like Sylvester Stallone is leaving the Expendables franchise over creative differences on the Expendables 4. This is the guy, everybody knows Sylvester Stallone, but this is the guy who basically created that franchise. He directed the first movie, which, was okay. The second movie, he's had a big hand in this franchise. The second movie was pretty awesome, I think. Third was, was fun. I mainly like it because it's got Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford, my two favorite actors, in the same movie. But it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Look, to see him leave is sad, but I don't think they should move forward with Expendables 4 unless you have him in the role, because he is the guy. He's the guy who he's the leader of the Expendables. How do you explain him not being in there? I don't think Jason Statham is a big enough star to lead that franchise, because he's kind of the next guy up to lead the team, basically. I love Jason Statham. I think he's a good action star, but he doesn't have the same charisma and presence that Stallone has. I really hope that they're able to bring him back somehow, because I think he should just bite the bullet, end the franchise, and move on, which is what I think they want to do. They want to end the franchise, but I don't want to see a Expendables movie without Sylvester Stallone. And also, Arnold Schwarzenegger's not coming back unless Stallone comes back. So you already got two action heavyweights who are pivotal to this franchise that aren't going to be in the movie. So hopefully they can figure something out. I believe there's still a deal in the works, and they could get him to come back. But I just want to see this franchise close. I'm sure, Stallone can do a lot better. He's got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming out. He's got Creed 2. He could do a lot of great movies with a lot of great directors. I mean, he was up for an Academy Award for crying out loud 2 years ago. Or a year ago. It was a year ago. For crying out loud. He could do so much better than Expendables 4. But it's a franchise. People still like it. I still love those films. They're a hell of a lot of fun to me. Kind of a guilty pleasure. So I'd love to see him do one more film. Just bite the bullet. Do whatever the studio wants him to do. Or fight for the creative control you want. And then just be done with it. I really hope that this pulls through because I want to see Expendables 4. I want to see the full completion of this franchise, whatever it looks like. Maybe everybody dies. I don't know. But I'd love to see a true end to the Expendables franchise. Because I don't think 3 was a good way to leave things off, so to speak. All right, number 5. This is not... Well, it's kind of a movie story. It's more related to film and filmmaking. Imagine Dragons has been doing this competition with Adobe, celebrating their, 20th anniversary, I think? Or the 25th anniversary, sorry, I have an article pulled up in front of me. For their 20th anniversary, Adobe is doing this competition with Imagine Dragons, and they want young editors to quote-unquote make the cut, as in make a music video with footage for their new song Believer, which stars Dolph Lundgren, Expendables. They want people to make a music video for this, and whichever one's the best wins like $25,000 in cash. There's a couple of runner-up prizes, like best newcomer, whatever, or fan favorite, most unexpected, best young creator, and best short form. And those go from I think 7,000 to 2,000 or 2,500 to 1,000. I don't have the prices in front of me, but that's kind of the gist of it. You could win money potentially. I actually wanted to enter this competition, but I'm currently in production for Windfall Rising, my new short film. So I didn't have time to really get into this, but it looks like it could be a lot of fun. This is a great way to get young editors involved, people who haven't even touched an editing software before, and have them really go to town on professional-looking footage and try to make a really cool music video. One of my friends, Eddie Fay, who I mentioned before, actually did this, and he's a really cool music video. I'm really hoping that he wins because it looks really, really cool. So yeah, I just want to make that unknown to you guys. I just think it's really cool. I hope they do more competitions like this, because it's a way for editors to express their creativity. Me being a hardcore, Jesus is coming around here in my school, so that's why you're hearing the bell. It's a great way for editors to practice the craft. It's a great way for people to get involved. I really hope they do more of these competitions, not just for the money, but just for the fun of it. I want to do it just for the fun of it. If I get to $25,000, then great. But if not, whatever. But I believe the terms where you have to use Adobe products. I actually believe the deadline is tomorrow. So if you actually want to do this, not tomorrow, today. It's April 8th. The deadline is April 8th, Saturday, so technically I could get started, but I'd have to just ignore school entirely. So if you want to get started, you could get started today and have it done tomorrow, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to make that known to you guys, but I just think that's really, really cool. All right, number 6. The Dumbo movie is still happening with Tim Burton, which I don't want to see. But here's something that might get me interested. Michael Keaton is apparently going to play the villain of that Dumbo movie, alongside Danny DeVito and possibly Eva Green and possibly Tom Hanks. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if Tom Hanks was up for that villain role, so maybe Michael Keaton got it instead. The cool thing about this is that it'll be a reuniting of Michael Keaton. It'll be a reunite. The cool thing about this is that it'll be a reuniting of Michael Keaton and Tim Burton, who obviously worked on the Batman films together. Of course, Danny DeVito as well, who played the the Penguin. So it's kind of weird that we're reversing the good guy, bad guy roles. Michael Keaton versus Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito was the bad guy. Now Danny DeVito's the good guy and Michael Keaton's the bad guy. It's kind of cool. I'm not looking forward to this movie. One, I can't watch Dumbo. I just can't. It breaks my heart. The scene where the mother's being caged up and the song, I just can't watch it. It's too sad for me. And two, I'm not on the Tim Burton train right now. I've not been impressed with his work recently. People have told me to go see Mrs. Paradine's Home for Peculiar Children. Maybe I'll check that out. Maybe I'll have I'll be singing a different tune. But I'm just not into his recent work, and I need him to. Maybe this is the film to bring him out of the rut and have him come back with something really cool. But I just don't know. I don't want to see a Dumbo film. Two, I don't want to see Tim Burton do a Dumbo film. I just think that'd be really, really creepy. Maybe that's what they're going for. I don't even know how you do a Dumbo film. I don't know how you do it, because you have to have a talking mouse, because talking mouse is my favorite part of that movie. If they don't have the talking mouse, I'm going to be really pissed, because they didn't have the talking mice in Cinderella, and I just want talking mice. I just love talking mice in movies. That's cool. Besides the point, Michael Keaton could potentially get me on board for this movie, because I love Michael Keaton. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. You know, he's in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Vulture. He was in Birdman. He's Batman. He was hilarious. The other guys, he's in a lot of my favorite movies. So could this be one of my favorite movies of 2018, 2019 when it comes out? No, probably not. But Michael Keaton's enough to get me interested, possibly. And, you know, maybe I see a trailer and I'll be singing a different tune. So we'll see what happens. But don't hold out hope that I'm going to be looking forward to this movie, because probably not. All right, last topic, and this just came out today, actually. Laika, who is known for films like Coraline and Paranorman, and recently Kubo and the Two Strings, and what else have they done? I'm drawing a blank on them. The Box Trolls, of course. They're coming out with action figures based on their movies. You guys know I'm a huge action figure fan, and that gets me excited, because I adore Coraline. That's one of my favorite films by them, and I've been banking for a sequel ever since I saw that movie, but I don't think it's going to happen. So this is just really exciting to me. I can't wait to get like a Coraline action figure, or even something from Kubo and the Two Strings that's coming out on Netflix really soon. I can't wait to watch that. That was one of my most anticipated films of 2016. I never got around to seeing it, unfortunately, but I can't wait to see it now on Netflix. I just being a big toy fan, this is great news. I'm currently looking out for the Marvel Legends Star-Lord figure, having a hard time finding it, and having a hard time affording it as well. But yeah, and Laika, they make great films, they make great characters, and I think it's awesome that they have this option for people to have toys and memorabilia based on their property, because let's be honest, I personally believe that they are reaching that point where they're almost like Pixar. They've made, 3 or 4 films? And look what's happening. Like, I feel like they're becoming like Pixar. They make really good films. And the characters are incredible, and they're kooky, and they have very distinct looks, and they're very distinct personalities. Very much like Pixar. There's a lot of memorable characters in the Laika films. I mean, I don't think they're as accessible, because some of them can get pretty dark, like Coraline and even Kubo and the Two Strings, I believe, based on the visuals, gets pretty dark sometimes. So, I don't think they're as accessible as Pixar, but they tell great stories. So for filmmakers like myself and just fans in general, this is great news. So I'm totally looking forward to Laika toys coming out. It's awesome. It's so cool. Alrighty, let's see. That was it for the stories I wanted to talk about. Once again, that was Rip Don Rickles, Batgirl being directed by Joss Whedon, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle changes, the Mummy trailer, Expendables 4 Trouble, Imagine Dragons Adobe contest, Michael Keaton in talks to be in Dumbo, and Laika is starting to make toys. Okay, so now on to our topic of the week. I haven't really done a topic of the week in a while, not since Christian Lovetear came on the show, but feels like it's been a while. I didn't really know what I was going to talk about today, honestly. I was sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel for stories, and thank the Lord that yesterday they announced Michael Keaton in Dumbo, and they announced today the Laika toys, and I decided to talk about the Adobe Imagine Dragons challenge, but I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about for for a topic of the week, and I've 4 roommates, and we all like to get on random rants about film. And one of the things we started talking about was comedy, and we talked about how comedy has sort of devolved over the years since the golden age with like Dick Van Dyke and Don Rickles and I Love Lucy, stuff like that. And we've talked about how there are very few comedies today that really stand out or feel different. Like a lot of them today are about how many dick jokes you can get into a comedy, or how many sex jokes you can get into a comedy, or how many times you can say the word penis in a comedy. It's devolved, and it's very unfortunate because comedy is an amazing genre. It's one of my favorite genres and one that I want to get into in the near future as a professional filmmaker. But frankly, it's hard to do a good comedy, one that stands out at that. So I want to start out by just talking about what I think is the best age of comedy during the 1950s, 1960s. I mean, even as far further back than that, like with Charlie Chaplin's, like physical comedy, like the Three Stooges and people like that. That stuff was great. Even a Disney shorts. I was just watching one of the old Mickey Mouse shorts where Mickey's on a camping trip with Goofy and Donald, and it's this old rackety car, this rackety trailer, and Mickey's making lunch for Donald and Goofy. Goofy's driving and almost getting them off the road at times, and Donald Duck is asleep, and he has this contraption that like wakes him up and puts him in a bath, and he doesn't do anything for the entire movie, and Mickey and Goofy doing all the work, and then Goofy loses the trailer, and Mickey and Donald are like rolling around the road, and then at the very end they come back, and Goofy's like, "Well, I got you down safe and sound." It's my best Goofy. It's hysterical. I don't know about you guys, but I was laughing my butt off at that, and maybe that's just my type of comedy, but I just think we've devolved since then. Like that was the best type of comedy, like the physical stuff, the simpler jokes. So then after the Mickey Mouse shorts and the Three Stooges and stuff, we got into like Dick Van Dyke and the sitcom, and Mary Tyler Moore and Carol Burnett and I Love Lucy even before all that. And I think that stuff's hysterical. I'm currently watching Dick Van Dyke right now, which has Mary Tyler Moore in it, God rest her soul. And I find those things to be hysterical. I laugh. I genuinely laugh at Dick Van Dyke, which is surprising because there's a lot of comedies today that I don't laugh at. But I laugh at Dick Van Dyke. I laugh at Mary Tyler Moore show. I laugh at Carol Burnett. I mean, if you haven't seen the Carol Burnett show, watch the Carol Burnett show. It's hysterical. It is just absolutely hysterical. They're doing impressions and they're doing all these weird physical skits. It's absolutely hysterical. I need to stop using that word. Not to say this stuff isn't present today. Like, I mean, we got Studio C, which is doing a lot of really funny stuff, and even SNL is doing a lot of hysterical stuff today. But even they take it way too far, and it's all about, sex jokes and human male and female anatomy stuff, and it's almost disgusting, and it's really devolved from what it used to be with like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, that stuff. That stuff was hysterical. They didn't need to go to the sex immediately to make people laugh. They were just themselves, and they made people laugh. Heck, Caddyshack. I just watched. Now we're getting into the 80s. Caddyshack. There's a lot of sexual references and sexual jokes in there, but they're not like blatant and obvious as they are in like Baywatch and The Hangover and Neighbors and all these crap comedies. At least they had enough humor in Caddyshack to not have to resort to sex to be funny. They actually did some very funny physical stuff. They had a lot of funny golf jokes and just it really relied on physical comedy now that I think about it. It wasn't this improv style. Even Ghostbusters felt very natural, but the fact that these guys were these silly bumbling idiots and the whole world is serious, that's what makes it funny. And then when you have Ghostbusters today, it's about, there's a couple of other disgusting female jokes that are just, or female anatomy jokes are just not funny. And then everybody else is an idiot except for the Ghostbusters. And the Ghostbusters are trying to be these badass females. Like, that's not Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is their, hysterical, funny, idiotic geniuses, and everybody else is straight and serious and thinks they're idiots. And they save the world. That's what makes Ghostbusters funny, not sex jokes. And it just, yeah. I love the Ghostbusters movie, the new one. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. It's a good movie, but it missed the mark on what Ghostbusters is, personally. Anyways, I'm getting off topic, and now I'm ranting about Ghostbusters. But once we got into, like, even stuff like, I just watched a movie with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor called Silver Streak. And while that's not a hardcore comedy, it's kind of an action comedy in a way, or a comedy thriller, if that's even a genre. But that's about Gene Wilder is this writer who's trying to get from one place to another, and then he gets caught up in this murder conspiracy. And yes, he kills people. It gets pretty violent in the movie, but it's still hysterical. They didn't have to resort to sex and obvious sex jokes. It was funny. There was this scene with Richard Pryor, and he's in the back of this car as his criminal character, and Gene Wilder's driving, and they just have this. It was like their first time meeting, and the whole time they're on screen together, it's hysterical. I'm like busting a gut laughing at these guys. It was hysterical. And other 80s comedies, around that time we start getting into more sex and more obvious sex jokes and comedies, but it wasn't as blatant as today. So now we get into today, and you got really horrible looking movies like, I'm sorry, Baywatch does not look funny. I haven't laughed at a single trailer. I don't find, there's a joke in the second trailer where it's like, hey, when you're building the sandcastle version of me, make sure you give me a big dick, okay? It's like, that's not funny at all. That's not funny at all. It's just, it irks me because, yes, Baywatch was kind of a over-stylized 80s or 90s show about ridiculously hot people on the beach, but just resorting to just sex jokes and trying to modernize it by, using just today's lock the camera off and let the guys go to town and spit out as many boob and dick jokes as possible, and sex jokes or racist jokes and stuff like that. It's not funny at all. And even Chips, the recent Chips movie tried to do that. And that's a remake of another famous TV show, which never resorted to that type of comedy. I believe it was funny, but it was also very serious. And Dax Shepard and Michael Pena and whoever else is involved in that movie, they just destroy the movie. It's a shit movie. Excuse my language, but it looks like a terrible movie. I can't speak because I really haven't seen it. I don't want to speak out of turn, but it just looks bad. And maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm the only person who thinks this way, but I'm just done with comedies about sex and how many male and female anatomy jokes you can get into a movie. It's not funny at all. I'll say this. I have a list. The only 3 comedies that have really stuck out to me that, albeit resort to sex jokes, but they're not as, it's not just about the sex, which is what these other films seem to be about. Is the first two Anchorman films, or the only two Anchorman films, I should say, the Anchorman films and Horrible Bosses. And Horrible Bosses, I'll admit, gets crude and it kind of resorts to that type of comedy, but that was sort of the breaking out of that. And I don't know. I found the dynamic of Horrible Bosses to be funny, and yes, there's some sex jokes in that movie that even I don't like. But it's still a pretty funny movie. I don't know. I guess I have to revisit it now that I think about it. But I don't know. I remember really liking Horrible Bosses. I thought the dynamic was funny. The cast was great. It was actually a kind of dark comedy about these guys who actually want to try and kill their bosses. And then Horrible Bosses 2 takes another direction and just becomes really bad. We don't talk about Horrible Bosses 2. Thank God. But then the Anchorman films. Those were these satirical, stupid comedies about these guys in the 70s and the 80s working as anchormen, and the kind of the evolution of network news television and 24-hour news stations and stuff like that. Like, it was historical but satirical at the same time, so that it wasn't just about the sex. Although there's some very obvious sex jokes and some sex scenes in there, it's not just about that. It's about more, and that's why those movies stick out to me. And especially, I don't know why, but I actually prefer Anchorman 2 over Anchorman 1. I don't know why. I just thought it. Maybe it's because I'm a bigger fan of the 80s and the 70s, but I just loved it. So yes, I guess just to cap it off, I guess the point I'm trying to make is comedy used to be a very hard thing to pull off. You have to actually be physical. You have to actually be clever and make up funny jokes. And while I personally believe it is fun to sometimes poke at the human anatomy and make some of those sex jokes. Some of them aren't as dirty as some people make them out to be, honestly, but most of them are. And I feel like comedies have become lazy in the sense that they resort to the same sex jokes, and like Dwayne Johnson going, "My balls tell me we should go that way." "Oh, my balls tell me we should go that way." "Why does your balls sound like a 12-year-old girl?" "That's just the way they sound." That's not funny at all. I didn't laugh at one second of Baywatch. I didn't laugh at. And I hate to pick on Baywatch, but I'm going to. Like, that's the most recent comedy that can stick out to me. That's just, I saw that trailer and it hit me that, oh my gosh, this is the current era of comedy. It's all about sex. And that's just not funny anymore. At least not to me. And I miss the days where comedy was more than just these recycled sex jokes. It used to be a craft that you actually have to work at. You actually have to be genuinely funny, and you have to be clever, and you have to be on your toes to make people laugh and make them laugh at more than just my balls. It's devolved. Comedy has devolved, unfortunately, and the only person that I can remember who's done a good job at salvaging the genre is Edgar Wright. I mean, Edgar Wright's films are hysterical, and hardly any of them have sex scenes or sex jokes. I mean, maybe a couple of them do, but the most recent thing I can remember is Scott. I almost said Scott Pilgrim. Simon Pegg's character from The World's End. He's trying to flirt with Rosamund Pike's character, and then he's trying to tell her about the robot apocalypse, and then he's like, "I have to tell you something right now, and then we can have sex. Unless you want to have sex right now, and then I'll tell you later." He's like, "No, tell me now, you idiot." It's like, that was kind of funny. But the point is, it's not all about just those recycled sex jokes. It's clever. It's physical comedy, and it's unfortunate that the only person I can think of who can master that kind of comedy is like Edgar Wright and Adam McKay. It's really unfortunate, and the genre of comedy, I believe, is at stake at becoming just this recycled. Oh, what sex jokes can we get in there? What part of the human body can we make fun of that pertains to sex? And it just, really upsets me. So I hope one day I can make a comedy that exceeds these sex jokes and all these dirty jokes, and we can, hopefully the genre itself will one day go back to its roots, or more directors will learn that these dirty jokes and these sex jokes, recycling them and reusing them in movies is no longer funny. At least not to me. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this way, but I rest my case. Comedy has devolved. And that's my topic of the week. Comedy. Kind of another somber note to end on. Sorry about that, but gotta get the word out. All right, well, yeah, I guess that's it, guys. I gotta make a shout out real quick. I'm trying to do more shout outs to people because shout outs are a lot of fun. So I came across this YouTube channel called The Lords of Liechtenstein. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm really sorry if I'm not saying that right. Lords of Liechtenstein. It looks like they're a band, but I came across one of their music videos called Witches, for their song Witches. It's the opening track of their fourth album, Downhill Ride to Joyland, and it's a not only is it a great song, it's a great music video. I'm really trying to look at more animated shorts. The animation is not great in this. There's some animation shots where there's a kid in a room and you can't really tell where the floor ends. It's kind of like this endless floor. But I mean, still, that aside, it's a cute short film, and it tells a really great story about this kid who's grown up and he starts to rekindle his youth again. And I don't know if the witch and the ghost in this thing are actual kids and they stay that age, but it was just a really cute little music video, and I really, really, really liked it. The animators are currently anonymous. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, the animation is not Pixar material, or it's not state of the art or anything. It's very simple. I'm pretty sure someone made this on a very simple animation software. But I don't want to discredit them in any way. For what it is, they tell a really good story, and that's what's key for me about this video, is they tell a good story about this kid who reminisces about his childhood and then rekindles his childhood by the end of the movie, or the end of the short film or music video, and rides off into the moonlight with his ghost friend and the witch, which I can't tell if those are friends who have departed or friends who are he befriended a ghost and a witch and they never age and he ages or something, and then when he's with them he de-ages. I don't know. That part's not clear, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I just love the idea of the story, and they combine also 2D animation with 3D animation, and they do a good job at it. So yes, the animation's not great, but they do a good job. It's not horrible to look at, and it tells a really good story. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Lords of Liechtenstein. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. So yeah, I'm gonna look for more of your guys' videos. I gave you a subscription. I subscribe to you guys on YouTube. So yeah, follow the Lords of Liechtenstein. I'll link their channel and the music video for Witches in the description. But yeah, give them some support. They only have this is so sad. Their video is at 3,823 views, but they only have 88 subscribers. So come on, guys, let's help these guys out. These guys are really talented people. They deserve the attention. So help them out, give them more subscribers, and check out Witches. Great song, great music video. Well, one more thing before I go. I've been trying to set aside an episode where I'm going to talk about my Disney visit. I think I've talked about that on multiple videos, that I want to talk about my visit to Walt Disney Animation Studios, that of which I can talk about. There's a lot I can't really say about the visit, but there's a lot I can say. So I will probably talk about that in my next episode, maybe next week. I will let you guys know in advance what happens with that, whether I do get to talk about that next week or not, but rest assured that's going to happen soon. All right, guys, well, have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Be happy. God bless, and peace out.